What is happening? Man, I'm excited to just be able to come at you guys just solo today on the podcast, as I want to really start to help a lot of leaders out in the marketplace get a little more foundation in their leadership capabilities, coaching dynamics, and really understanding the fundamentals of coaching, the fundamentals of leadership. Because listen, if you're a team lead, if you've got any team members that are looking to you for inspiration, for guidance, for direction, and you find yourself by default in that leadership role, you need the fundamentals to really navigate as you continue to grow and develop, what it takes to thrive and be a leader in, the climate and the market that we're in. And the reality is that, listen, I mean, everybody is in a leadership position. So no matter if you're, just starting out in a company, or you're in the middle of a company, or you're at the head of a company, no matter where you're at, you are in some type of leadership dynamic. And it's super important to have just a solid foundation to build from. And listen, the bigger and the deeper the foundation, the bigger and taller the infrastructure that you can build. And so having these fundamentals will really, help you and serve you in navigating, the future ahead. And when you look at kind of the coaching or leadership, and I'm just going to keep saying coaching dynamic, because coaching and leadership to me is a lot of the same. And so I'm just going to use the word coaching in this context. So the coaching relationship, if you think about it, is really just an alliance between two people for the purpose of meeting the client's needs. The coach is committed to helping the client achieve their goals, and the client is committed to taking action and achieving results. So there is a double level of commitment within the relationship. And this relationship is different from most other relationships because it's based on trust. It's based on respect. It's based on a mutual commitment. And the coach is a leader, okay, who inspires and challenges the client to reach their full potential. The client is an active participant in their own growth and development. And so together, the coach and the client create a safe space for learning, for growth, and ultimately for transformation. And this is not about you as a coach. Like, listen, you have to get this, or you're not going to have the impact as a coach, as a leader, that you possibly can if you understand that there's a different type of journey happening here. We are not the hero. We are the guide in the client, the hero in their journey. This is about the other person you're coaching and leading. Whether you're working one-on-one, you're working one-to-many, you're leading a team. Listen, you're leading your family. These are essential. And it is essential to keep the focus on what the other person needs and wants. This means listening carefully to their needs. This means giving them the guidance and support that they need to achieve their goals, and making sure that their voices are heard. If you can do this effectively and consistently, you'll be able to facilitate the growth and development of each client and team under your care, and help them succeed in all aspects of the happiness buckets: health, wealth, and relationships. So here are the 8 cornerstones of coaching. Number 1, people can figure things out, okay? People are creative. People are resourceful. And it's true. When the going gets tough, people are capable of finding answers and taking action. We're also good at recovering when the train goes off the tracks. We are a resilient bunch. Perhaps most importantly, though, is our capacity to learn. We're constantly learning new things, whether it's a new skill or simply acquiring more knowledge. Our ability to learn plays a big role. Listen, a big role in our problem solving ability. Every time we encounter a problem, we have an opportunity to learn from it. We can analyze what went wrong and figure out how to do it much better the next time. This process helps us to gradually refine our problem solving skills. Okay. As we become more experienced, we become better at anticipating and avoiding the problems before they arise. But what if you're not even aware you have a problem? Awareness is said to be half the battle. Okay. Well, listen, this is the biggest challenge facing most people today. They are simply not problem aware, right? Like a fish doesn't know what's above the water until they get out of the water. And like, oh my gosh, there's a whole nother world up here. But they just were not aware. And it's the reason people stay stuck in jobs, in lives that they hate, relationships that don't fulfill them, and lives that feel like a constant uphill battle. They've never been taught how to identify and solve the root problems in their lives. Instead, they've been trained to just deal with the symptoms. What we reveal, we can heal. Our job as a coach is to help shine a light and create an awareness to identify where the constraint is in their life. This is why we coach, train, lead everything around theory of constraints. One of our mentors early on, his number one book recommendation was Eli Goldratt's book, The Goal, which introduced everybody to the concept and the theory of constraints. There's Dan Heath's new book. I don't know why it's slipping my mind, but his new book, and I'll think of it here in a second. I'm having a moment. It'll come full circle, but there's 16, 17 pages in his newest book, Reset. Oh, geez, I know it'll come back to me. The book is Reset. It is a must. It is our mentor whose same number one all-time business book recommendation is The Goal. His number one book recommendation for 2026 is Reset by Dan Heath. And within there, he breaks down, it's the best just consolidated chapter on theory of constraints. The Goal is a little tough even to listen to get through. So I can't recommend enough. I gave the book to everybody at Kitchen Table, which is our quarterly strategic mastermind that we host every quarter. And I always give a book. And that was the book that I gave away in March, the end of Q1, going into Q2, Kitchen Table, quarterly strategic mastermind. And that's the book that I gave everybody. And I told everybody immediately go read those 16, 17 pages on theory of constraints, because if you understand theory of constraints, that is the easiest way to help us create awareness to identify where the constraint is and the bottleneck is in our business, in our relationships, in our fitness, in our thinking. There's always a constraint. And once identified, you as the coach can work with the client to develop a plan to address the constraint. This means identifying, addressing, those great stories, those limiting beliefs that we tell ourselves, or setting realistic expectations for progress. It may involve a better, way of setting goals, a new level of commitment to develop new skills, or just flat out making changes in lifestyle or habits. So by creating awareness and overcoming constraints, coaches can help individuals unleash their full potential and achieve success in all areas of the happiness buckets, right? The health, wealth, and relationships. So fundamental cornerstone of coaching number one is, people can figure things out. So number two, Number two is, man, it's always layers deeper. I probably say this half a dozen to a dozen times every day. It's always layers deeper because most people take the behavior of another human to be factual, to what's really going on in their life. When we see somebody, doing something, it can often seem like we have a clear understanding of what's going on in life, whether, they're laughing, sulking, arguing. It can seem like these behaviors give us direct insight into, what's truly happening inside that person's mind. In reality, though, the behavior is just one piece of the puzzle, and it's often only surface level indication of what someone is really thinking or feeling. So we always have to remember that it's always layers deeper. It's never what you get at surface level. And so a great framework from Byron Katie's, book, Loving What Is to be able to ask the questions. Is that the goal? Is that really the goal? Is that the problem? Is that really the problem? People's behavior, feelings, and emotion are always driven by something else. Their emotions are typically driven by what they think, the belief that they're holding on to in their thoughts, negative or positive. Those thoughts are always driven by the environment or the circumstance that they're dealing with. And that environment can be from people. It can be from their values. It can be from something they're dealing with that you just don't know at the surface level. We have to always remember to never look at what it is, yet always to uncover what's going on layers deeper. The kind of the framework that I use I got it from my coach, Coach Matt, Smoke and Fire, right? Most of what you're getting from another human is just smoke. And you have to step away and step out of that smoke to realize what it is. And when you then recognize, oh my goodness, I got some smoke, I got some things going on here, I got to get down to, layers deeper to address the fire that's causing all of this smoke. And if you don't do that, you have to remember that most people in fire, situations, most of them don't burn to death. Most of them die from smoke inhalation. And that's just a great reminder when we are dealing with people at the surface and not getting down layers deeper down to the root cause, we never make progress. Okay. And so that's why understanding and having this cornerstone of coaching is so important. Remember, it's always layers deeper. Number three is collaborative conversation. In the relationship of the coach-client relationship, there is a strong dynamic exchange between both parties. The coach is actively engaged and attentive to the client, picking up on subtle nuances, underlying meanings of what is being actually said. It is essential. It's essential that we pay attention to what is truly being said rather than focusing on surface details or using assumptions to fill our gaps. The easiest way to not confuse or cross lines is to get clear, crystal clear, on what type of conversation we're having. It is important to identify whether the client is just venting or talking through challenging things or trying to make a decision. One of the best tools to utilize as a coach is to get permission on what type of conversation we are having. Okay. So for us as coaches, this conversation becomes an exercise in listening intently at many levels in knowing when to respond and when to intervene. Listen, it can be difficult to strike the right balance between offering advice and stepping back completely. Knowing when to interject with useful feedback and suggestions can make all the difference between helping our clients achieve their goals and pushing them in an unwanted direction. By staying attuned to the needs of our clients and setting clear boundaries for ourselves, we are able to provide them with valuable direction without coming across as overbearing and unsupportive. In this way, our role as a coach becomes an ongoing process of learning how to best listen, speak, and respond. Okay? Super important to declare the type of conversation. Don't guess, don't assume. Get permission. Okay? First rule of communication is to get permission. Do I have permission to vent? Do I have permission to, can you help me make a decision? Can we make a decision? Hey, we're just going to collaborate. We're just going to throw things against the wall. We're not making any decisions. We're just trying to get everything out of our head. Okay? Declare the type of conversation that we're having. This is an important cornerstone in the foundation, in the fundamentals that you're building for coaching. Number 4, this is a big one. Agreements versus expectations. And listen, this concept, the smartest dude I know, the best small business COO on the planet, it took him 11 times of me saying this to him before it finally clicked, which is another great reminder. Everything sometimes takes more time. You have to hear the same message before it really starts to resonate. It's just a great reminder, right? That we just have to hear the same message over and over, right? We got so many dang distractions that we need to hear the same message over and over. And scientifically, I think it's 7 to 9 times as a team member, you need to hear the same message from your leaders before you start to believe that's the direction we're going. That's where, as leaders, we get in trouble when we're shifting course all the time. So for us, this is why vision is so important, because I would lock in on the vision and I'd be like, listen, and we used, if y'all are old enough, if you're old enough to remember this is going to date me a little bit, but if y'all remember the little Gumby character, right? You got to be flexible. And that was kind of our mantra, right? It's like, here's the vision, but we are going to, like, we're on a, full speed ahead speedboat, but we're navigating, the waters and the terrains. You got to be flexible. You got to be able to move with us, but this is where we're going. So locked in on that direction is key, but we have to stay flexible. So the concept of agreements versus expectations is a big one. Most of the time when you're dealing with another human being, you're operating within expectations. Most of the time, you don't have an agreement of success. So when it comes to the coach-client relationship, agreements versus expectations is one of the key fundamentals for maintaining healthy and productive interaction. As coaches, it saves a lot of frustration, not only with ourselves, but with our clients. An agreement allows us to measure against. An expectation is something that we have for ourselves. Unlike agreements, which are defined by clear, concrete terms, expectations are often vague and unarticulated. This makes both parties more susceptible to misunderstanding and frustrations as they rely on assumptions rather than clearly defined standards. When you have an agreement with another human being, it allows you to manage the agreement and lead and coach the other. When you don't have an agreement, everything is left up to an expectation. And every time we have an expectation, you're going to be let down 100% of the time. Not 97, not 90, not 87, not 80, not 73, 100% of the time. Okay? Never fails. So anytime that you find yourself in a frustration with another human being, I can almost guarantee you The reason you're frustrated is because you're operating within an expectation and there is no agreement of success. And this can be applied to anything. I laugh about, the trash with the kids. I cannot get upset with the kids when they try to stack as much trash on into the trash can that they possibly can, because there's no agreement that when the trash can is full, take the trash out. It's just an expectation. That's my expectation. That's not theirs. So you have to understand that this is a key fundamental in forming this dynamic. You have to put in agreements with those that you're leading and those that you're coaching. Okay? What is the agreement of success, and how are we going to measure it? That's what we want to know. What is success and how are we measuring it? How are we going to know we're succeeding? And this allows everybody to get on the same page. So, for an example, coach may have a certain strategic idea in mind when working with the client, while the client may have their own ideas about how to best achieve their goals. By having open conversations about agreements versus expectations from the start of the relationship, both parties can ensure that they're aligned and working towards common goals. Agreements versus expectations, absolutely critical. Number 5, clarity. Clarity equals capacity minus contamination. We all know people that come to us are going to be lost, confused, more than likely insecure. There's an insecurity bucket of why they're coming to us. Okay. Our job is to give them clarity around their goals, clarity around what they want in life, and most importantly, clarity on how to get there. The way to do that is to help them expand the capacity for whatever they're trying to gain clarity around in their life. Challenge them to think bigger, to expand what they believe is possible, and to expand their capacity in order to break through old boundaries and see new possibilities. This means pushing them outside of their comfort zone, pushing them outside of their comfort zone and helping them to see their potential for growth and change. One of my favorite kind of matrix of this is how we get into flow state. Okay. So if kind of on this graph, going up are going to be challenges. On the bottom is going to kind of be skills. You can say capacity, but it's just say skills. And where we find ourselves in flow state is that when our skills are in alignment to our challenges, that puts us in flow. So what happens when you start to feel anxious? Your sleepless nights, like there's some anxiety that's going on. Well, where does that come from? Well, that comes from biting off more than we can chew, meaning our challenge is greater than the skills and capacity we have to overcome that challenge. So a couple things you can do: lower the challenge, which might not be growth. Maybe the better way to attack this is to increase our skills and our capacity, because that's typically what it becomes. It becomes right in there. We have to improve. There's something that we haven't developed yet. There's something we don't know. There's just a capacity. There's something missing that can balance the challenge we're facing to get us back into the flow state. Well, the opposite side of the spectrum is, man, I got a lot of skill, but I got a low challenge. That's where you find yourself bored. That's where you find yourself coasting. So what do we got to do there? Well, what we've got to do there is we got to up the ante. We got to up the challenge to match the skills that we have to put us back into the flow state. So that's where we have to develop and increase our capacity. Well, the other part of that formula is eliminating contamination. And these are just the really good stories that we like to tell ourselves. These are the limiting beliefs, the things that are not true and holding us back in our lives. These beliefs can be about our ability to succeed, Are we worthy enough? Or any number of other things. See, the problem is that these beliefs can then become self-fulfilling prophecies. It's one thing we say to the kids all the time. Either you say you can or you can't. You're both are right. Like, don't say I can't, because you know what? That's true. You can't. But if you say I can, and you say it out loud and you start to hear it, you're going to figure out, you're going to create a belief that you can. And the truth is that you can. You can solve a lot of things. You're more than capable. And when we focus on eliminating these limiting beliefs, providing tools and resources to expand our capacity, we give our clients so much needed greater clarity on being able to achieve the massive life that they want to achieve. So clarity is a critical component in the fundamentals and the foundation for just a solid, deep-rooted foundation for your coaching and leadership style. Number 6, commitment to confidence. Commitment, right? Man, I'm lacking confidence. Well, right things, right order, because you just don't start out confident. There's a code and a sequence to unlocking anything in our life. Right things, right order. And winning requires a great deal of confidence, but confidence doesn't just come out of nowhere, right? You can't just get or have or develop confidence without starting with a commitment. Now, listen, I don't believe you commit and try to figure things out. I believe you have to figure out where you want to go, what do you want to accomplish, and reverse engineer. And then once you understand all of the steps for the outcome to be true, then and only then is that something you're willing to commit to, okay? Now, in the game that we're in the game we're playing, there's always levels, okay? Commitment, there's levels. There's levels around commitment. The level above commitment is obsessed. Not asking you to be obsessed, but I promise you, you get in your lane, you're going to become obsessed. And then the opposite side of commitment is interested. There is no room in any game we're playing right now if you're just interested. That's a hobby. If you're serious about your business, not just surviving, but thriving, you cannot be interested. Bare minimum, you have to be committed. You have to be committed. And I'm not of the belief, like I said, that you commit and figure it out. You got to start with the end in mind. What is the desire? Reverse engineer. And is that something I truly want to commit to? Because once you have a commitment, once you're committed, then you have to have the courage to stay in the fight. How do we continue to push through emotionally when we don't want to? How do we push through? See, courage is not just a physical trait. It's deeply rooted in our emotions. And when we commit to something, whether it be a life goal, a difficult task at work, what we're taking on, a challenge that requires us not only to use our rational minds, but also to draw on the courage within. But once this commitment is made, okay, guys, once a commitment is made and we have the courage to stay in the fight and work towards our goals, no matter what challenges may arise along the way, courage is not just about facing fear. Courage is also about believing in ourselves and refusing to let anyone or anything stand in the way of us fulfilling our dreams. As we stand on the gas pedal, we have to understand that we have to develop capabilities and the skills that we need in order to get the wins and the results we're after. These help us build our confidence. The more confidence that we have, the more commitment we take, the more courage we build, and the greater our skills and capabilities become. And the confidence continues to grow. It's a flywheel. Commitment to courage, to capabilities, to confidence. If you are not confident, it doesn't start with, I got to become confident. It has to start with commitment. What are you committed to? What are you holding your clients to? What are you holding your team to? A real commitment, not somebody that's being compliant. There's a difference. Are you compliant or are you committed? Most team members with a paycheck, most of them are just compliant. You as a leader have to get that shift from compliance to committed, because that's where all of the magic starts with the commitment. Number 7, a life of accountability. We have to create a life of accountability, help build a culture in our organizations, and help establish accountability within those that we're coaching and leading, right? The highest form of love is accountability. So this means setting the tone and example ourselves, right? First rule of leadership is lead by example. So we set the example and we hold others accountable for their action. Accountability starts with each individual taking responsibility for his or her own choices and decisions. This is extreme ownership. Our core value is we own the outcome. 0 excuses, 100% accountability. But it also requires coachable moments where we provide guidance, we provide feedback to help others learn and grow. It's all about learning, right? Connor Price has one of my favorite lyrics around this, right? You got to put the L in earning. That's what learning is. I butcher it every time, but you kind of get the gist of it. It's pretty cool, right? So L, earn, learning, they all work together. And listen, the reality is, man, is we all fumble. We all drop the ball. Things don't go as planned. But if we live a life of accountability and establish a culture that allows for 0 excuses, we focus on, I dropped the ball, but this is what I'm going to do about it moving forward. And listen, for me as a leader, for a coach, I don't want to hear your excuses. In fact, I don't. I don't have time. You don't have time for your excuses. That's great. It's a great story. I don't care. What are you going to do about it moving forward? What do you want to do about it moving forward? And see, living a life of complete ownership means that we take full accountability for our actions and choices in life rather than looking for someone or something else to blame. We recognize that we are always in control. And this really comes down to your relationship. Okay. This comes down to your relationship with the mirror and your relationship with the window. Most people have a much stronger relationship with the window, right? Because it's easy to look out this window and point your finger. It's a lot harder to look in the mirror and point the finger at that finger pointing right back at you. And so it's living that life of complete ownership, full accountability for our actions and our choices, okay? It is us. It's our relationship with the mirror. And when we own our actions and our attitudes, man, you talk about freedom, right? The freedom to make positive changes in ourselves and the feeling of feeling empowered to pursue our goals and dreams. This can be like, listen, easier said than done. This can be challenging, really, really challenging, but an incredibly rewarding path. Because you know why? Because it allows us to live with purpose and integrity. And at the same time, it also helps us avoid being a victim, right? We would always joke with the kind of the joke in the office and with the kids is, do you have your designer victim glasses on or do you have your accountability glasses on? Which glasses are you wearing? It looks like you've got your victim shades on. And so it's super important as a coach to be able to establish a relationship to where you have permission to call them out on how they're behaving, how they're seeing themselves, how they're seeing things in the moment. And remember, a lot of people just are not aware. You have to help them become aware. Once they're aware, then they have the power of choice. Instead of being trapped by circumstance or other people's decisions, we have to remain strong, independent, in control of our own lives. That's why a life of accountability is such a fundamental cornerstone in the leadership coaching dynamic. Number 8, man, we are always a work in progress, forever and ever and ever. Perfection is a disease. It will cause us to not push through. It'll cause us to stop learning. It'll cause us to stop moving. It's a dangerous trap that causes us to become still. Rather than pushing us to achieve great things, it's causing us to become stuck in a rut of inaction. We become paralyzed by the fear of making mistakes. And listen, as a result, we never really learn or grow. We become afraid to take risks and explore new ideas. And if we do, we beat ourselves up when we don't make when we do make the mistakes and don't reach our goals. Listen, 87% is good enough. Progress, not perfection. Perfection is what counts. Dude, sometimes you just got to pass, right? Sometimes you just got to slide by and you got to pass. I mean, 70, get it across the board. Let's go, right? We got to keep moving. And for us in the ever evolving and changing world of business, the law of diminishing returns describes a situation where each additional unit of effort produces an increasingly small amount of results. This can be seen in almost any sphere of activity, whether it is our goals, progress, or mistakes and failure. If you're starting a new project and you're laser focused on achieving your goals, then each step forward will yield you positive results. But as you approach your goals, it becomes more and more difficult to keep making progress. And often small mistakes will set us back significantly. Okay. Similarly, when we make mistakes, we may feel that the effort we put in has completely failed to produce any results at all. During those times where it doesn't feel like anything is happening, instead of looking for perfection, we have to remember that we are a work in progress. Mistakes can hold tremendously valuable lessons for us if we learn from them and redefine our approach moving forward. I love when we make mistakes. I just don't love when we keep making the same mistakes over and over. We just have to remember, after all, no great achievement ever comes without facing setbacks along the way. You will always have setbacks along the way. It's all a part of becoming better at what we do. So keep pushing forward with your goals and remember that every little mistake is simply another step towards your ultimate success. Man, this is just so critical in laying the foundation for the relationships that you want to have, either from a leadership or a coaching dynamic. These fundamentals are going to be the difference of building, those relationships on sand or on hard rock and a solid foundation. You want the solid foundation. That's why you've got to have these fundamentals in your, tool belt. These are tool belt tools is what these are. When you think about, you got your tool belt, you got your toolbox, then you got, the toolbox in the truck, then you got the old tool shed. You got to go back to the warehouse, right, for the bigger tools. But the tools that you use every day, multiple times throughout the day, are the tools on your tool belt. And that's what the fundamentals are all about. They're tools that you can reach into at any time. You're always reminded that people are smart, people are resourceful, people can figure things out. It's never surface value, it's always layers deeper. Having and being clear on the conversation we're having, but a collaborative conversation working together is a fundamental foundation. Operating under agreements versus expectations. Always pushing for greater clarity, increasing our capacity, and eliminating our contamination. We stay committed to confidence. We live a life of accountability. And, we understand that we're always a work in progress. Listen, adopting these 8 fundamentals will take your relationships, your leadership, your coaching to a whole nother level. And I know it did for me, right? I wish I would have had these 5, 6, 7 years earlier in, 14 years that I've been in the one-on-one coaching space. I sure could have used these early on. And so, listen, it's continuous. You just don't have them. I mean, it's a continuous work, for us to always keep coming back to these fundamentals. So listen, wherever you're at, whatever you're leading, whatever you're doing, whatever you're building, operate with intent and operate on a foundation, and it's going to excel you light years ahead of everybody else. So appreciate you guys. Have any questions, any challenges when it comes to how to navigate difficult and challenging relationships, feel free to reach out. You can jump on the calendar, 7figurecall.com, which will jump to my calendar if you want to jump in and have a conversation about how, to navigate these tough conversations. I would love to chat with you. Till then, keep rocking. See you guys.